Okay. So the big press conference happened today. James Fox talked about it, the Varginha case, and a lot of people came out, spoke about what went down during that time. A lot of people were saying, including myself, that really what needed to be done was to make a huge impact, video footage, pictures, things of that nature. That didn't happen. So that is not going to be the major story that everybody needed it to be. It's true. Doesn't mean it was a nothing burger, as a lot of people feared it could be. One of the issues, again, is that the sound was kind of off with this thing. Like, what is it about these conferences sometimes? It's like, you got to hire people who have done this before. Some of the sound was just off. And anyway, but there's a lot of good that did come out of it, and a lot of interesting things that did come out of it. But there was News Nation, of course, was the one who really had the most coverage on this. I haven't really seen any coverage from anybody else on it yet. Doesn't mean that there hasn't been. I just haven't seen it. But here is the pre-stuff that News Nation was talking about kind of going into this thing.
This is a big deal, right? Because this isn't a congressional hearing where lawmakers and witnesses are in the hot seat. This is born out of a, decorated filmmaker's desire for more answers. What are you expecting from this?
Marky, I actually got to attend the rehearsal for this press conference last night. I got to see these witnesses get up and practice their testimony. And what I can tell you is that it was extremely emotional. These guys, this is 30 years. This is a really long time that they've lived with, some of them a secret, some of them, wanting to be believed. So really the goal for today is to get attention from lawmakers, say, hey, this is actually happening. This is a true story. And we are living proof with multiple witnesses who really have no relation to each other. You have a man who was at the crash site. You have multiple witnesses that saw the crash. You have 3 sisters who encountered a being, and you have a neurosurgeon who says he walked in to do his job, and what he saw lying on the table was not human. So the testimonies are just really unbelievable to hear.
Yeah, and I was reading there's 2 parts to this. One is Brazil. The next part is called, America, just what we've seen over the past couple years. That you've been following every step of the way. I understand, too, you also talked to some families this week ahead of today's hearing or event, if you want to call it that. What are they hoping for?
Well, in attendance today are the families of the people who are testifying, but also people who have had encounters themselves in the area. The main goal is to be heard and to be believed, but also they do want whistleblower protection acts, but ultimately they want disclosure from the government. The main question that I'm receiving from fans of Reality Check and people who have followed this case closely is they want to know what the U.S. involvement in this specific case is. There are many testimonies that say that in days of this encounter, the U.S. came in and they left with crash debris and non-human bodies, one possibly still alive. So they want to know, was the U.S. really involved? And if they were, where are they hiding this potentially life-changing evidence?
Yeah, we need more transparency and answers around it. I know that Ross interviewed James Fox for his show Reality Check, and he emphasized how vital this meeting is, even comparing it to Stephen Greer's disclosure meeting from 2001. Do you think that today's meeting might push the UAP conversation forward and keep it in the spotlight?
I really hope it does, because there is something different about today's hearing that we have not seen before. Today, we're going to be hearing testimony of the first ever firsthand witness of biologics. And when I say that, what I mean is that we have a neurosurgeon testifying. Unfortunately, a young man died in this case. He was a Brazilian officer who allegedly touched the being and was scratched. And from that scratch, he received an infection, and that infection ultimately killed him. So we're going to be hearing from the man who performed the autopsy and studied this tissue. And he puts his hand on the Bible and he says, the bacteria that cause this infection is not from this planet. And there were no antibiotics 30 years ago to treat this, and there are no antibiotics today that could treat this because it is not human.
And that was always one of the most fascinating things in the Moment of Contact documentary in general when they covered that. But first of all, props to Megan Medic, who is the producer there. And I found out randomly today that A, she was the producer on it. B, I know Megan. I haven't spoken to her in a very long time, but I'm going to, I reached out. Whether or not we get her or Ross on the show, I have no idea. But I gave it a shot. Nonetheless, I think Megan should be doing more interviews. I think that Megan's voice in general should be heard more, not just as the editorial person that's on Ross. I think it's a reason why she was on the thing with Ross today. I think there's a reason why she's doing interviews now. I think that you can tell that she's clearly educated inside of this topic and the things that she is passionate about within this. And I agree with a lot what she said. Now, I was looking to see what her answer was going to be when the reporter asked her, do you think this is going to push it forward? And her answer is the same that I would have given, which is, I hope so. Because of what we're going to hear, it should be something that people are going to really get behind and listen to, because it's fascinating, nonetheless, when you hear it. And then she brought up the whole thing about what people would be asking about how much the U.S. had to do with this and what their involvement was. So there's going to be a lot of long clips in this one, because in case you missed it, these things. So let's play. This is a longer clip. It's probably between like 7 or 8 minutes, maybe longer. But I think it's relevant to kind of go into all the stuff that was said. And then we'll talk about it afterwards. As I said, I wanted to show that first clip to lead us into the actual hearing itself. And there were things that were said throughout it about, if you're following the case, that is fascinating about what the doctor saw. So to start, take a look at this clip when they opened up. And what was said, this is a short clip here, just about some of the things that you heard throughout it, but signifying the stuff that happened in this room, which is indeed fascinating. So take a listen.
My conclusions focusing exclusively on the identification and analysis of the bacterium responsible for the infection that affected the soldier. This bacterium proved to be a microbial agent of extremely high aggressiveness and lethality. Given its characteristics, I understand that it goes beyond the limits of a conventional infection, possibly presenting itself as a highly specialized mechanism of aggression and defense, which raises the hypothesis of its alien origin. We are currently awaiting the necessary legal procedures for the exhumation of the body, with the expectation that advanced studies in molecular biology may provide new evidence regarding its mechanisms of aggressiveness, corroborating the hypothesis that it is an organism of extraterrestrial origin. If confirmed, such a finding would represent unequivocal proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life, implying a profound global reformulation of our philosophical understanding of existence. January the 8th, 2026, Varginha, Dr. J. Giannini.
Okay, so that statement alone, it is fascinating, when you hear about it, and it's similar to what Megan was talking about before, about the idea that this soldier who had been infected, and the doctor that worked on him said the bacteria, it's not here. This is not of Earth. So why isn't it being examined more? I mean, it is something. It's frustrating. It's frustrating in a lot of ways. One is if you had the smartest minds and you had people with a lot of money really pushing down the doors to find out the answer to this question, it would get answered easily. Because if you're like, okay, wait a minute, let's take all of the files for this soldier. If I had all the money in the world, I go, wait a minute, put the money towards it and find me the files on the soldier. Who's got the files? Find the files, right? They're classified. Well, why are they classified? And you do the investigations. The problem is there's never any money behind these things. For example, look at that press conference. Look at the press conference in general. You got, it's just like a background with a pillar. I mean, the answer is going to be like, what do you want it to be? It should look like people are really putting money behind this thing and want to get the answers. And as they said, which is the admirable thing here, is what James Fox did in being able to put this out there. Because if you go back to what Matt Brown said, I think 5-6 months ago, the truth behind this stuff is not going to come out through these hearings. It's not going to come out through the government. It's just not going to happen. There's too many loopholes. There's too many things. Too many people trying to block it. There's too many ways to say, no, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Yeah, you might have the right intention, but we have the wrong intention. We have more power, so we're going to do that. But when it comes to citizens who are able to do this, they don't have to follow those rules. So they can do things like that. So that's interesting. But unfortunately, as we talked about in yesterday's video, the problem is hearing this stuff is fascinating. And you're like, whoa, if it's really true, it's groundbreaking. But we have dove into a spot where we are in this topic that you got to put up or shut up in regards to footage and pictures and all that, because people are going to go, oh, did you hear about the guy talking about alien bodies? Cool. Sounds good. What's going on in Greenland? And then they just move on to the next thing. And they're not paying attention to this topic. You say, hey, did you see the doctor that showed, then they showed video of him in the room with a fucking alien? Well, then things change a little bit. That didn't happen. However, one of the things that everyone is talking about is indeed the involvement of the U.S. government. So take a look at this clip, which is the one that is circulating around the most.
And he's like, oh, I'm actually a retired United States Air Force colonel, and I'm also a fighter pilot, and I had a pretty dramatic UFO encounter back in 1980, which coincidentally was covered up. And okay, that explains it. So he eventually came forward to share publicly his UFO encounter, but today he's here to talk about something I feel is extremely significant, and that is this potential flight that came in from the United States of America in January of 1996. So without further ado, Colonel Clausen, thank you so much for being here today. Here we go.
My name is Fred Clausen. I'm a retired U.S. Air Force bird colonel and fighter pilot. I have more than 4,000 hours of flying time in the F-15, the F-4, and I flew combat missions in the F-105 during the Vietnam conflict. I was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross twice and held a top secret SCI clearance. While flying the F-15, I intercepted a UFO. I took gun camera film, which was immediately confiscated. But that's another story for another time. Today, I am speaking on another matter, a matter that requires world attention. According to several Brazilian authorities, including air traffic controller Marcos Freires, on or about the 20th of January, 1996, a U.S. Air Force cargo plane, most likely a C-17, took off from a base in the U.S. and it flew secretly into Brazilian airspace without flight clearance from Brazilian government, and it landed at Viracopos Airport in Campinas. While at Campinas, witnesses talked of it loading an unusual cargo, then departing to an unknown location in the United States. If true, I am certain that 30 to 40 Americans had direct knowledge of this flight and its purpose. I will now walk you through a potential paper trail this mission could have left behind. In order to secure a cargo plane, a specific protocol must be adhered to. The tasking would be sent to Air Mobility Command at Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, who has command authority over all U.S. Air Force cargo aircraft and refueling tankers. A paper trail has begun. Air Mobility Command transmits a mission order to the Air Mobility Wing at Charleston Air Force Base, South Carolina. Another paper trail. At Charleston, a crew is selected for the mission and a C-17 cargo aircraft is made ready. The distance from Charleston to Campinas, Brazil is roughly 4,500 miles. The unrefueled range of a C-17 is about 2,500 miles. Therefore, air refueling by KC-135 would be required. More people in the know and another paper trail. An international flight plan to Brazil is required even if the mission is classified. Paper trail. On board the C-17 is a minimum crew of a pilot, co-pilot, and loadmaster. But due to the nature of the mission, probably more. Maybe CIA and a general officer. The C-17 lands at Campinas and must be refueled. Who pays for the fuel? And where's the receipt? Before departing Campinas, another international flight plan must be filed. Again, more paper trail. The C-17 flies back to the United States with tanker support and lands at an undisclosed location. As you can see from this possible scenario, I estimate that at least 30 to 40 Americans have direct knowledge of this mission. So here's my plea today. If you were a participant and have knowledge of the mission, come forward. You are probably retired now, in your 70s, maybe a little older like me, and have languished for 30 years with this knowledge. Come forward. We know this mission happened, and you know it too. Come forward. The time is now. Thank you.
Wow. What a stand-up guy Fred Clausen is. That's extraordinary. And he's absolutely right. There will be witnesses.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Colonel.
Look, I got a bum shoulder, man. Stupid things happen to my body as I'm getting older. And another thing that happened to my body this year or last year rather, was the holidays. I was traveling a lot. I had a lot of good food. And then you just get a lot of chaos, and it knocked me off my health and fitness goes. And for me, I'm getting older. I've noticed that the holidays, it takes a bigger and bigger toll on my body. But January's here. It means it's time to get back into the swing of my healthy routine, and I have been. I've been hitting the gym, going back to it. And I'm not just getting back into my normal healthy routine. I'm actually helping my body turn back the clock. How are you doing that? Well, you might not know this, but the things that happen to our body as we get older, you get stiff joints in the morning, longer recovery from the gym, there's hair thinning, nails breaking, every skin losing their smooth glow, and that can be fixed. They happen because your body's collagen levels start to naturally decline beginning as early as your mid-20s. Collagen is often referred to as the glue that holds our bodies together, so you can imagine that a decline in collagen production has some big impacts on your body. But that's where Bubs Naturals collagen peptides come in. Bubs helps restore collagen levels closer to what your body naturally had in its youth, so your joints feel stronger, your hair and nails grow healthier, and your skin looks smoother. And it's super easy to use. You mix it into your coffee, which is what I do. Some people put it in their smoothies, or you can put it in juice. It's tasteless, it's odorless, and it dissolves instantly. There's no clumps, no weird aftertaste. What makes it different is the brand is a tribute to former Navy SEAL Glenn "Bub" Doherty, a national hero who gave his life saving Americans in Libya. Glenn's call sign was Bub, and he was the kind of guy who always pushed for self-improvement and helped everyone around him. That DNA is woven into the brand, and to honor him, Bubs donates 10% of all profits to charity, starting with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. On top of that, Bubs is built to the highest standard, no junk, zero sugars, sweeteners, or fillers. It's third-party tested, NSF certified for sport, Whole30 approved, and sustainably sourced from grass-fed pasture-raised cattle. Trusted by over 100,000 customers, it was named Best Collagen 2024 by Health.com. Live better longer. For a limited time only, our listeners will get 20% off at Bubs Naturals by using that code DTE at checkout. Just head to BUBSnaturals.com. Use that code DTE. You're all set. You're going to purchase. They're going to say, where'd you hear about us? Please support our show and tell them DTE, Kristian Harloff, sent you. Okay, so that's a massive, to me, that's the biggest thing that kind of went down there, because you have this guy who said, I was part of this. And not only was I part of this, there's 30 to 40 people who knew this thing existed. It happened. Step forward. Talk about it. The U.S. government has knowledge of it. So let's get to the bottom of it. So one guy like this, now the thing is, what are they going to try to do to this guy? You know, he's again in his 70s. They're going to discredit him. They're going to say that he was discharged because he did this or that, or he was whatever it might be. Are they going to try to do what they did to Grush in the beginning? The way to nip that in the bud is to do exactly what he just said, and more people to step forward, because you keep hearing more about this. If you watch that documentary, and I really, really encourage you to watch that documentary, especially after seeing this. It's like, if you haven't seen that and you're hearing about all this, I'm sure more people, and I'm sure part of the intent is to get people to watch it, as they should. It's fascinating. To me, out of everything that I've watched on this topic, it's the most fascinating. I want to do a rewatch of it. That's how fascinating it is to go through all of this and to see what these doctors said, to see what the cover-up was. And in the same way that the cover-up portion of this press conference stole the show, the cover-up portion of the documentary is the most fascinating part. So I was also curious if anybody was going to be there from the government to talk about it, and there was. Eric Burleson came in and said something, and take a look what he said.
Assassination of JFK, Congress took action and passed the JFK Disclosure Act unanimously. They wouldn't have done that had it not been for an outcry from the public that was demanding answers. And it's my hope that your film and others like it will create that kind of momentum and that outcry. Because the truth is, if there's any government that's holding information about the knowledge of whether or not we are alone or not alone in the universe, that is not for any government, no matter how powerful it is, to withhold from the rest of humanity. We are here to serve the people. This government belongs to you. You don't belong to the government. And never forget that. And so I'm here to serve you, to try to get the truth to the people. We're working diligently to do that in the committee that I'm on, and I have a responsibility in that regard. I want to say thank you to these courageous individuals, my new friends from Brazil.
Muito obrigada aos meus novos amigos brasileiros.
Thank you for your courage and your willingness to, risk your reputations and your careers for something that will benefit not just the people of Brazil, but the rest of the world. Thank you.
Obrigado pela sua coragem de arriscar a sua reputação por algo que vai beneficiar não só os brasileiros, mas o mundo inteiro.
I want to say thank you to Kirk McConnell. He and others have been doing an amazing job at pushing this forward in a thoughtful way, helping people like me. I was a financial advisor and a software consultant, had no idea when I ran for Congress that I would be doing this. But folks like him have been extremely helpful, and I couldn't do it without you. Thank you. And Colonel, I can't wait to get to know you more. Thank you so much for coming forward today. You're an inspiration for the rest of those who have served. Courage is contagious, and you're an inspiration, and hopefully you'll you'll compel more people to come forward. Appreciate that. We've been given marching orders. We have legislation that we need to pass. We've heard from a lot of witnesses. It's time for action, and it's time to get the receipts. So it's time to pass the UAP Disclosure Act. And it's time to pass whistleblower protection within that or a separate act. But I go back to my original statement. The reason why so much information is currently today being released consistently, that the agencies of this federal government never wanted to see the light of day, is because Congress took action, because the people demanded it. And I'm asking you, everyone here, and all the reporters here, and Leslie Keene, thank you for the brave work that you did with the report in 2017. You destigmatized. That one story destigmatized this entire topic and made it so that people could come forward. We need more people like Leslie Keene. We need reporters that are brave, that are willing to publish stories, and we need the social media warriors out there to continue to spread that information. Act and push on members of Congress, because otherwise they won't do anything about it. Thank you again, and I'm proud to serve.
Okay, look, I have been critical of the government side of this recently, and I've been critical of certain things that a lot of them have said. Some things Burleson has said, some things Luna have said, some things a lot of people have said. More so, just like, okay, what are we doing? This was good that he showed up to this, and this was good what he said. These are the things that he should say. Now, hopefully, he will act on this, as the rest of them will act on this. You hope. He's not wrong. It is right, and it is time for the UAP Disclosure Act to pass. The problem is, as I said earlier, that, there's just so many roadblocks because of the Burleson has only so much power, but people who are higher up than him and higher even up than Chuck Schumer, when Chuck Schumer and Rounds were trying to get it passed, they're saying no, never going to happen. Too many people are going to block this, and not going to happen because other people are going to protect the stuff. They don't want their stuff confiscated, and so on and so on. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a good thing to say. And look, I love the fact that if they're really going to go forward with protecting whistleblowers and protecting these people. And I like the fact now that Burleson is getting more acquainted with these people. And this is one of the things I've been trying. We're trying communication. Our good friend Pavel has an introduction with myself and Burleson, trying to get him on the show because I am very fascinated with his journey, as he said. As he mentioned inside of that speech there, where he was saying, I could have never imagined that this is where I would be and what I would be doing. And in the same way, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when the hearings were happening and he was being interviewed, he's like, I don't know if I've seen anything that makes me believe that there's aliens, but I'm willing, to his credit, he's like, I'm willing to hear it. I'm willing to hear more about it. But I don't see that. He's now sat next to Eric Davis, who's saying there's various species. He's now sat at this press conference of a doctor saying that he was sitting in a room with an alien. What's his opinion on that now? Where does he stand with that now? What's he heard behind closed doors that either sway that opinion or don't, or have solidified it? It seems more so that he's gone away from that opinion. At least one would think. Otherwise, why would he show up to these certain things? And as he also said, which is very true, that these doctors are putting their careers on the line because years ago you couldn't imagine. People, why waiting so long? Because it was a very different time to step up as a doctor. 10 years ago, I was in a room with an alien. You'd have been laughed off the stage. And now, as he mentioned with the Leslie Keene article and everything else and the constant coverage and other things, it's a different time. And it might be that time to do exactly what they did today, because maybe this is a step forward to get more people to talk about it. As that retired Air Force pilot said, step up. Let's get more people. Maybe we see more people. Now, one of the other things that was fascinating is they played a video from Jacques Vallée. And this, to me, was another thing that stood out. So check out this video that they posted from Jacques Vallée.
My name is Jacques Vallée. I'm speaking at the request of Mr. James Fox, because a few years ago I initiated the system of multiple databases used by a DIA-sponsored program at Bigelow Aerospace as a cleared member of a scientific team charged with study of UFO, UAP phenomena. The data warehouse system contained data about 260,000 screened reports of anomalous objects in flight and hundreds of reports of creatures, live or dead, associated with crashed or landed vehicles of unknown provenance, including some similar to those in Virginia, thus providing useful multinational and historical context. My current research is taking us to deeper levels with new on-site analytical and physical research on historical cases, such as the 1945 case in San Antonio, New Mexico, the 1964 case in Socorro, New Mexico, also, and the 1965 case in Valençol in France. In those and several others, new physical and environmental data was collected. The observations involve a total of 7 creatures, generally similar in size and general body shape to those described by the witnesses in Varginha, Brazil, and by Mr. Fox, providing both context and statistical support for current and future findings. In particular, all the creatures just mentioned breathed air normally. Beyond this, I currently serve in a private capacity on the Scientific Advisory Board of the French Government National Center for Space Studies, CNES. That unit has actively researched the UFO problem since 1975, including national cases of close encounters with the presence of occupants, a number of which I have also studied on site. It should be clear, however, that I do not represent any of these government organizations in this or any other context. The Varginha incident of 1996 in Brazil, researched and documented by James Fox, fits within cases already known in scientific and medical records, many of which have remained classified. Relaxing the classification requirements while preserving security of essential facilities such as the nuclear labs would make it possible to inform and enlist the scientific community at a higher level. Action by the executive branch to allow more open exchange would be world-changing. As the Varginha case proves, allowing more open contact at an international level would yield better understanding of the global issues. The current segmentation of the data hinders any serious research. into what appears to be an extraterrestrial phenomenon empowered by advanced artificial intelligence. Open archives do exist to some extent, describing the physical and biological environment of the crafts and their occupants. Socorro and Valensol in particular, two unclassified cases officially deemed unidentified by multiple government agencies, have yielded evidence of traces, recovered materials, and environmental effects. But we know that much more is available. The Varginha case presents exceptional new knowledge beyond what was already known. It improves our information in two fundamental ways. First, in the ability to reconstruct what happened to the craft and its occupants from beginning to end. And second, in the professional description of the anatomical and behavioral features of the live creature recovered by authorities within a short time of the crash and to the point of its death. By this achievement, James' long and perilous project has opened up an entirely new field of research.
So I think that's as mind-blowing as, the Air Force pilot saying that the government was obviously aware, sent them on the mission. Jacques Vallée has been very, very prominent. He's been out there. He was on set during Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Spielberg. I don't know if he's given various interviews and he's been very upfront. I don't know if he's ever given that kind of a detailed kind of confirmation about alien bodies and varied species and things of that nature. The answer in the comment section could be he has, but I just, as long as I've been covering, which again, albeit it's not very long, only like 2.5, 3 years now, but out of the times that I've talked about him, I haven't really heard this kind of a detailed response and what he is discussing, and then how he detailed Varginha. And it is why it's funny, because for a long time, the Varginha case, when people talk about documentaries and they talked about whether it was the phenomenon or a lot of different things, and a lot of them, James Fox, and Moment of Disclosure was a big one recently, with the governmental stuff, which was crucial to get people to say, oh, the government's really talking about this. But out of the stuff that I saw, I still think it is the most intriguing thing, especially because I think there was an air of fantasy around it at first, right? Like, there's no way this real freaking aliens running around the place and little girls walking back and saying they saw aliens and a guy died because he had alien bacteria. This is like science fiction stuff. But now that you got doctors who were at this case talking about it in D.C., and then you have senators out there talking about it, about this case. You've got people like Jacques Vallée talking about this case. You have Air Force pilots talking about this case. I think that people will go back, or should go back, and watch this documentary and go, holy shit, this might be real. And it should be something to really study that case. It might be a thing that gets people talking next. It very well might be. And to once again quote Matt Brown, the fact that just a citizen stepped up, organized this thing, had a press conference, is significant. And it caused news, as opposed to all powered, in all respect to what Burleson just did and that they all did. But man, it takes a while for them to put these hearings together. They get people that you're like, they're not asking. That at one point they go, I don't know if Lakatsky's the real person that you want to talk to. What? This is the kind of stuff that you want to see, but it just, there's no footage. There's no pictures. Nobody took anything. And if there was it confiscated? Like, I don't know. Nonetheless, a lot here. A lot of fascinating stuff. what stood out to you guys? What do you think was the most significant? Or did you think, look, I'm sure, I guarantee there's going to be tons of comments in here going, there's nothing burger. Just a bunch of stories. Nothing really happened. Do you think there was a significance that you had both the Air Force pilot who said this was a mission that we went on, Jacques Vallée saying there are alien species, there are these things, Burleson saying we're going to make it more so now, the UFO Disclosure Act, all these things. Is it just more talk, or are things really starting to push forward? I have told you, if you've been watching over the last 7-8 months, I've been more skeptical of here's another thing. I think this, I don't know how much it pushed forward, but I think it gave a little shove. I think there was a little shove today. If you watched my video yesterday, I said, I don't know what we're really going to see. A little shove. And I think at least people are talking about it. Now, the question will be, and I know the answer to this, besides News Nation, who else in the big media is going to cover this? And I'm going to tell you by the time I do my video tomorrow, I'll answer from the future. Nobody did. I'm going to check all the big outlets. I'm going to check all the big shows tonight. When I sit down, after I get back from the office, I'm going to say, okay, did NBC cover it? Did CBS cover it? Did Fox cover it? Did anybody cover it? That's what I want to see. And I'm going to tell you that they didn't. I'll tell you now. I hope I come back and I'm wrong. But tell me what you thought. I want to hear. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And we'll see you on the flip side.